I think you got it.
And I didn't damage anything.
No. Heck yeah, bro, you did it.
I'll tell you what, that looks pretty sweet.
It's awesome. Welcome back to the Heads Up Show. I'm Steve, and today I have a buddy with me, Brian Scott from the Injured List. I'm going to tell you right now, if you are even this much into fantasy football, this is going to be a long video. We're going to dig into a whole lot of stuff that has to do with injured players, how Brian can help you make better decisions with your lineup, and then we're putting together a cool helmet.
Yes, we are.
So Brian, welcome, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I need you to take a minute and explain to the folks, who are you and what are you doing here?
So as you said, Brian Scott, PA currently, physician assistant, orthopedic surgery, sports medicine. I'm a former athletic trainer. Have done this for over 18 years now, and I host my own podcast, as Steve mentioned, the Injured List, in which I basically review injured players, not just in football, by the way, Steve, but in multitude of sports, to help basically set your fantasy lineups. And that's what I do primarily throughout the football season. And lucky enough to be here at Gridiron Studios building a custom helmet.
Okay, I'm smiling because I have so many questions. All right, now, I suck at fantasy. And I'm not just, I mean, I do, right? But it's also because I'm not that passionate about it to want to care to do better. But there are times when I play and I lose, which is kind of often, where I'm like, but the player was questionable. By now, clearly they should have been back, and I'm the guy that keeps the faith. Are you helping at those scenarios where you say that guy is not? Can you explain how you help people in fantasy?
Well, there's a lot of nuance to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I come in. Through my years of experience, both on the sideline, in the athletic training room, and now currently in the operating room and helping with seeing athletes in the clinic, there's a lot of little intricacies about injuries in general, but about not just about that, but also how we treat them and what determines getting a player back on the field. And so through my experience, I'm able to take those intricate details and nuance work and kind of formulate a better idea or a sense of when that player is going to be back, what you could expect from their recovery, and with their performance when they finally do get back on the field. So in that regard, I help a lot of fantasy owners adjust their roster, make their decisions better based on some of the information that's coming out of the local media or press. And that's kind of a niche I built over the last 4 or 5 years.
All right, so let me take it back a minute. You said you help the owners of the fantasy teams and leagues make better decisions, but you're not using inside information?
I'm not.
So how is it your years of experience by reading through between the lines? Give me.
That's exactly what it is. Similar to how Green Gridiron knows football helmets, I know sports injuries. So I'm able to kind of read between the lines, take some of those little hints of information and tidbits of information that you get, and kind of know a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes to get these guys back on the field. And based off that, I can give you a better projection of what to expect.
Oh, let's take it to this football season. There's a lot of injuries. Can you give us a recent example of what you were able to read into?
The Christian McCaffrey injury was a huge one, especially in the world of fantasy. And that goes back to the preseason when his injury became known. So predicting his recovery, the timeline, when we could expect him back, and what we would expect out of his performance when he finally gets back on the field was a huge one for a lot of fantasy fans this year, and one that I was constantly questioned about week after week after week.
Right. That's really cool. I mean, it's clearly you're giving an advantage.
Oh, yeah.
There's always going to be injuries, I know, but there's something about football nowadays, that is a 45-year-old, where like, I always say, like, the players feel like they're Ferraris to me now. Like, they're faster, but they can't take a hit, man. They just get hurt.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just being insensitive, but like, seriously, back in the day, they'd go off and they'd throw up on the field, they'd tape their fingers, and they just did it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, and that's a question I get asked a lot as well. And there is some truth to that. And part of that is because a lot of the rules changes that has occurred in the NFL over the years. And this goes back to the maybe early 90s, late 90s. You might be able to know better than me. When Corey Stringer passed away after a heat stroke incident in practice, that forever changed the preseason. That forever changed practice sessions in the NFL, put a lot of strict regulations in place. No longer were they doing 2-a-days in the dead of summer. The preseason has significantly shrunk as far as the games played, the practices held. And that can somewhat be attributed to what we see now with guys not really being fully ready, tip-top shape as the season gets started. It sometimes takes them a little bit longer into the season to really get used to and adjust to taking hits, full contact activity, and that's a huge part of it. Then, coupled with some of the rules changes about how players are hitting and how they're getting hit, and some of the penalties that are now being called as a result of that, the protection on the quarterback, all that has kind of played into it.
Yeah, I think that you are onto something by saying that conditioning definitely isn't there anymore. Whether it was an appropriate reaction or an overreaction to a one-off incident, if everything worked that way, we'd be living in, bubble wrap.
Yeah.
But the soft tissue injuries, the little things that add up, they're not ready till week 4.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, like week 1 or 2, like they're ready to roll.
Yeah.
Like they're already banged up, but they're good. Yeah, that's interesting.
And let's not forget, too, like the advent or the growth of artificial turf over the years has significantly changed from back when we were young. We played on AstroTurf, which essentially was a thin carpet on top of concrete, to what we see now with the synthetic turf with the actual little bits of ground-up rubber tire to kind of replicate dirt. I mean, that has also played a role in some of the injuries and things we see and how that's affected players and their recoveries.
So what do you do with your time when it comes to doing this research and being ready for something? Because you have a podcast, you're guests on shows. What is your regiment like for being out there with your knowledge?
Well, as far as my knowledge goes, by law and just because of my certifications, I have to stay on top of the most current medical literature and research and all that. So that is just part of my career, part of my job. I have to do that. With regards to the NFL and fantasy sports, I'm constantly reading the news, reading social media, watching for reports, gathering as much information as I can on each individual player and their injury so that I can disseminate that information in a coherent, easily understandable way for the common fan and for fantasy players alike.
And as far as sharing that, what platforms do you use?
So I use them all. I mean, primarily I'm on X. I have my at InjuredList Pod, and we'll have all the information in the show notes, but at InjuredList Pod on X, I do a lot more of my day-to-day kind of tweets, responses to injuries that are out there in the news. I have a website, theinjuredlist.com, the podcast, The Injured List, which you can find on all the podcast platforms. I work with our network, That Sports Podcast Network. I work with Fantasy Football Advice Network on some of their shows as well. So I'm kind of a little bit all over the place when it comes to where I do my updates and who I do them for and with. But across the board, it's basically the same format. I'll come out with the injury, people will ask questions, I'll give detailed information so that you can take that information and make a decision what's best for you and your roster.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's a total, not unfair, but it's almost unfair advantage that you're giving people because, man, you're using some information that you've acquired over the years in your profession and you've applied. I mean, it's brilliant.
And I'm not the only one that does it, but
Sure.
where I kind of separate myself from, and this is where at least I think I do, is because of my experience as an athletic trainer. That allowed me insight behind the scenes, in the locker room, in the athletic training room on a day-to-day basis, working directly one-on-one with athletes and the healthcare professionals, and then bridging that into my new career where I'm a PA, and I am the healthcare professional that those training staff and medical people come to for advice. So I've kind of been on all facets of the injury spectrum as far as sports goes, and that I think gives me a little bit more of an advantage over some of the other guys.
What a tool to have as a, oh my good, what a wealth of knowledge it must be for people who are really serious into fantasy, and there are a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
We met at the Fantasy Expo in Ohio. Bob Lung puts together this really wonderful event. The community with fantasy football was something I found extremely surprising. And the reason is it's a community for real.
Oh, yeah.
It's not in the standard competitive nature that football players have. This is competitive, but it's more of a community and friendship, even though you're clearly against each other when it comes to game time, but it's pretty cool. Do you find that to be?
So I've only been involved with that for the last 2 years, and it's been the best thing that's happened to me, both personally and for the podcast, because it's allowed me to meet a lot of great people, make some great relationships, both for content, but also just personally, that people that we've been able to share experiences with come here to Green Gridiron and do the helmet build. It's been awesome. So it's been a great community. Everyone gets along. It's never highly competitive to the point where people are at each other's throats.
Right.
But it's just competitive enough where you feel like you're really razzing each other.
Exactly.
And like you said, it's a great community. They do a ton of work for charity.
Yes.
They do a lot of great things at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, which is awesome too. I probably never would have gone there otherwise if it wasn't for the conference. We probably never would have met either. So it's been a great experience for me 2 years running. I hope to be back many years going forward.
Yeah, likewise. Let's talk about safety, equipment, if it pertains to injuries or not. You've been in this industry for a long time, and you've been around sports for a long time.
Yeah.
What currently are you seeing out there that are great technological advantages to a player, but also for like maybe the medical staff? Anything you can think of?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this off camera. The helmets themselves, I mean, just looking at the construction, the quality of the construction, and the fact that they're putting a lot of innovative technology like the accelerometers and stuff in the helmets so that people can measure real-time data and get actual data and information to help with concussion management and injury management. That alone has far surpassed any of my expectations from when I first came into the medical field.
Even as an example, like quick release pins to be able to quickly take a face mask off.
And that was a game changer.
How so?
So, initially we had these pliers basically that are called trainer's angels, and all athletic trainers used to carry them in their fanny pack or on their hip somewhere. And that was the only way to quickly remove a face mask, was to clip the plastic clips that held the face mask in. Forget about taking time to unscrew them with that was just too long. When you're dealing with a life and death situation, potentially a guy unconscious in cardiac arrest, and now you've got these quick release, which you can pop off in a matter of seconds with like nothing basically. So that in and of itself was a game changer for the athletic training community and the sports medicine doctors.
So aside from the helmet itself, what other pieces of tech have you seen come out?
Yeah, so this is a huge point, and I'm glad you brought this up. So, we know all about the helmets. Green Gridiron does a great job with the helmets. They know all about helmets. But how much do people really pay attention and know about mouth guards? And that's a huge factor when you're dealing with concussion management, injury prevention. It's not just the helmet alone that's going to help prevent against head injuries and traumatic brain injuries, but mouth guards are a huge, important part of that. Chin straps as well. And of course, the other protective equipment that the players wear. So I've been lucky enough to partner with NeuroGuard Plus. They're a mouth guard company designed by a dentist out of Michigan, Dr. Hutchinson. It's a lower jaw mouth guard, which is not typically used in a lot of sports today. Most people will wear either an upper mouth guard or mouth guard that goes on both top and bottom. The theory with the lower guard is that it's more of an anatomical position of the jaw that it puts you in, which can help against absorbing some of the shock from the contact and concussion forces.
There's players out there that have two. One's in their helmet, one's here.
Exactly.
Like,
they're doing nothing if they're not in their mouth. And that's the problem, is the lack of education, awareness. But the mouth guard plays a huge role. A lot of the impact that happens in the jaw, comes up through the jaw, up through the head. If you can't dissipate that energy, absorb that energy, it's got nowhere else to go but to the brain.
Well, I'm glad I asked. I mean, we want to know the tech that's out there because we might want to sell it on our website.
Yeah.
And for us, our biggest demographic who's sitting there watching us right now are moms and dads with players, kids as players, and the players themselves when they're in that high school to college to semi-pro level. All right, here's what I suggest.
Yeah.
Let's build this thing.
I'm excited.
So what we're going to do is we're taking this silver SpeedFlex helmet. We're going to take a bunch of navy blue components like chin straps and face mask hardware and visor clips. We got this really cool repeat pattern that we made with some broken bones.
And by the way, I left this all to you guys, so I have no idea what we're doing here. This is all new to me too.
I should have mentioned that. Yeah. You gave us carte blanche.
I did. I said, you guys are the experts in this. I'll leave it to you.
I love that. And then we got... That's
awesome.
Tell me about this.
I don't even know how that evolved, but it just kind of did. It's actually a caricature of me all banged up in a football uniform.
What happened to you here, bro?
Yeah, well, I probably became part of the injured list, which is what I do. And that Sports Podcast Network is the network I belong with. It's a network I'm part owner of. We have several different shows. We cover a lot of fantasy football sports. TSS being our big fantasy football show, which I help do injury updates on.
Well, I love it, man. I say let's regroup here. Yeah. Did you ever put a helmet together?
I have not. I've taken a lot apart in my time, mostly the face masks off emergently, but I've never put one together.
I'm going to put you to work.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, man. So let's get off our seats here and start putting this thing together. We're gonna need some of these tools.
Yeah.
So why don't you grab that heat gun, that screw gun in your hand, black quick release tool over there. Yeah, let me get that blue scraper. Yes. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I want you to put this rear bumper decal on while I am putting the face mask hardware on.
So, I do surgery 3 days a week, sometimes 2.
Okay.
And I'm more nervous about getting this on right than I would be if I was handling somebody's torn ACL or ankle fracture.
Hey man, it's new. Now, the face mask hardware, I need you to take that off the helmet. So you're gonna use this quick release little pins and pop those out. We need to reuse the metal.
Now, how does this, this is a lot different from what I'm used to.
Oh, you're gonna love this.
Like we talked about.
Take that and press that little pin
push that in?
and you're free.
That's it? That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like a world of difference from what it used to be.
Yeah, so that's like, there's no doubt that Riddell has set the trend when it comes to this. This is now the new minimal level that you have to meet, and it's a pretty damn good level.
This is revolutionary.
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you how to put this visor in. There's 2 ways of doing it, but there's my way and the other way. So if you just take this and press it in, you'll see how these holes are between these bars.
Yeah.
You then take this, lay it upside down, and then boom, you take your thumb screw and you put it in.
Okay.
But I want you to feel the pain.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, speaking of visors, these weren't even allowed on, most guys didn't even start using these until about the 70s or 80s. There was a few guys that were using them. And then they weren't even actually, I think like 95, they finally allowed guys to use it, but you had to have a special medical basic prescription for them.
That's right. For good reason. They needed to make sure that they were controlling the things that people were putting on their heads. The medical staff needed to and still needs to be able to clearly see your eyes.
Correct.
To see if there's like neurological issues happening and all that, correct?
Yeah, that's a big part of it for sure. I am butchering this so bad I can't.
I got you. I got you, bro. Let me learn.
I think I'm just not getting it in there.
Yeah, you're
just
good.
Right.
So there you go. There you go.
Okay.
Teamwork.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yep. And then you're good. And then let's turn and do this side. And then what we'll do is don't tightly do it, just place it. And then this way, if it needs to get maneuvered, you can do that. So now you say, all right, that's looking pretty good.
I do appreciate the flair that it adds to the helmet, to the overall look.
It does. When we were designing this, we wanted your helmet to look like a football team.
Yeah.
So it was like a football team would have this iconic circle.
Yeah.
They would have a center stripe
Yeah.
and those kind of things. So we were like, how do we do it? And with the silver and navy and then these colors on here, I think it's a really flashy combo without being too much.
I agree.
So now a center stripe, I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I'm okay. That's okay with me.
While I'm doing this, if you could,
Yeah.
let's just take that and then these ends, you see how they're rounded? What I want to do is use those scissors over there and cut them straight across in a nice cut. Use like the back of the scissor and go directly across this so it's not a curved finish.
This is going up top here.
Correct.
Chin straps have come a long way too,
Oh yeah.
as far as the material and the comfort level.
Here's an aesthetic question for you.
We got to cut that.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Well, the part of the helmet design is these reliefs that are cut out.
Flex,
so
yep.
I think we need to see that.
Let me have that. Yep, there we go, right there. What do you think? Is this more your speed?
I'll let you. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm better with human tissue.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Not inanimate
Yeah.
objects.
Yep, and thankfully for everybody out there, I only do this on helmets.
It's an important part of the design. It needs to be seen.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But
it's for concussion prevention. It's for injury prevention.
but I tell you, some people they want to see it solid.
No.
And we say, okay.
I think that gives it a much nicer, more custom look too.
I agree.
Because we took the time to do the cutout.
Yeah. I got to tell you, man, we've done some fun-looking decals before. I don't know, dude. This guy.
He's awesome. Yeah, that's a caricature of me if you can't see it on camera, but it's me pretty banged up in a football jersey, which I have no business wearing.
You've been through the ringer, man.
Yeah.
Tell me about this TSPN.
Yeah, it stands for That Sports Podcast Network. It's a group of guys and myself that got together and basically formed our own network. We've got several different shows under our umbrella that we do content for. I mentioned TSS earlier. That's our kind of flagship fantasy football show. It's where I do a lot of our sports injury updates on Friday nights and again on Sunday early morning for the last minute kind of injury updates before fantasy football kicks off. And then we've got a few shows that touch upon basketball and some other sports. And then we've got a couple of ladies on there that do shows as well. One for the Giants, sports writer and media personality who does her show called The Blonde Blitz, which is awesome too.
Blitz.
So,
that's a great name.
Yeah, she's an award-winning producer too. She's got some good credentials.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
So this quick release chin strap, I mean, I should mention all this stuff is the real deal, right? So you could put this on your head and go get yourself injured and those don't get put into protocol. Yeah. Take those and screw these in place for me. Yep. So yeah, we first met, like I mentioned, at the Fantasy Football Expo, and we love what we do. And if you're looking to get a custom helmet made, you can reach out to us. We work with brands and companies all over the place. Oh, I got to fix that back bumper a little bit. I'll wait for you.
Yeah, that's me.
That's all right.
Yeah, the guys have been great to work with here. They've been very easy to communicate with. Again, I basically gave you guys carte blanche, which is fine.
We love
I'm not a designer, so.
We're okay taking extreme direction or just saying, this is what you do, go do. All right, so here's the best part that kind of brings it all together, and that is the face mask getting married up to the helmet itself.
Yeah, that's a game changer there.
It is. Now, nothing against this technology, but these are called quick release pins.
Not quick.
not quick install. Can I see that? I really would love you to try all this.
Like I said, taking it apart is definitely more my niche.
Now imagine, shout out to all the equipment guys out there.
Yeah, those guys don't get paid enough.
They don't. they really don't. They are running the show because without the equipment, you don't have a player. So that went in nice and easy. Yeah. And then I would do that bottom one and then the upper top one. The third and fourth one might get a little trickier, but this looks like it's going on easy peasy.
That's good.
Yeah, so engage the pin. Sink it in, and then now press.
Not sure if that one went.
No. There you go.
There it goes.
There you go. And then the last one.
Well, I'm glad we went with the mirrored lens. That really pops.
Yeah, it's cool. That's color, we call it Quicksilver. It is probably the most silver shiny thing you'll ever see. Got it. There you go. You got it. I think you got it.
And I didn't damage anything.
No. Heck yeah, bro, you did it.
I'll tell you what, that looks pretty sweet.
It's awesome. You know what has to happen in this thing, right?
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good fit too.
Yeah. Pull that down there. Let's see. I'm gonna buckle you in, man.
That's actually a good fit. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the way it should be too. There should be no movement.
You did it, bro.
There should be no. I mean, that's perfect.
It is. Man, I thank you so much for coming on. It's so much fun doing this. We love what we do. And if you want to make a custom helmet and be on set with me, you just have to have a brand and a reason and the means to do it. And we'd love to have you. Dude, good job.
Awesome.
Appreciate what you're doing. If you're into fantasy, please do yourself a favor. Check out the Injured List and all the things that Brian and his guys are doing. It's a service to the community. We appreciate it, man.
It's been great.
Till next time. Cheers.